Hello there. We're back and we have three more strategies that we want to share with you on our final stretch to being, what are we?
Stay in place.
Shelter in place. Shelter in place warriors, 7 year warriors, right? Supernaturally, we were called out from it all. And here we are, still standing, still strong. And the strategy we want to talk about next is, now we know we've talked about prayer, we've talked about developing a prayer life, we've talked about tuning your ears to the Father and seeing this opportunity for this. Going a little bit deeper with that is see this as an opportunity to hear and obey the Father's heart. It's one thing to tune your ears just so that you can hear him. It's another thing to have a conversation with the Father and tuning your ears to the Father. It's another thing to hear and obey. It's really the focus on obey that I want to talk to. Now, we were just talking here on the break, and I was saying, well, one of my prayers at the beginning, maybe even prior to the 7 year period, was I said, God, break my heart with the things that break yours. And so he started showing me some things. That truly broke my heart, caused me to grieve in very significant ways, called me to certain assignments that I have in him, and also called me out of certain things. Now, we've talked about it before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Called me out from certain pagan practices, such as how Christmas is celebrated by the majority of the world, Easter, the same thing, a lot of other types of traditions. Halloween, traditions of men. I used to be really big into holidays, and now I'm really kind of like over it. I did ask Father, I will give you this. I said, Father, okay, in disobedience, I have no problem. I'm going to walk away. But I am kind of a party girl. I like to have a good time. I like to invite people over, have get togethers. Do you have any parties in the Bible that we can do? And he showed me Leviticus 23. And I think it's very timely because we are coming up on the spring feast, holy convocations, and holy days that the Father does mandate instruct us to. And those instructions haven't gone away. Again, not getting into a theological debate. That's for you to work out for your own faith and for your own walk with the Father. But the point, the strategy that we're talking about here is seeing this as an opportunity to hear and to obey what the Father tells you to do. My walking away from an almost $100,000 career was obedience in itself. He said, pack your stuff and go. And had I stayed, well, what would have happened had I stayed?
Well, it was funny because when he first told her that, I had already gone through some things and I knew what that was going to look like for her. So I went to the Father and I said, Father, I've been through this before, okay? And you brought me out of it. I don't think she's quite ready for it.
He didn't have faith. He didn't think I was built for it.
Well, I just wanted to shield you from it.
Thank you.
And
my covering.
Yes. And the Lord said, I never forget it. He said, okay, I can do that. But when she goes through it, if she doesn't do it now, it'll be 10 times worse later. Well, I knew what I had already been through, and I knew what she was looking forward to. But what he said, if she didn't do it at that point, it would be 10 times worse later. I was like, hon, you need to go ahead and put that, 2-week notice in or do whatever you got to do, because this is what he told me. And I don't even want to see what that looks like. No, I don't even want to see that. So just buckle up and let's get ready, because it's about to get real interesting. And so it was. But then, a couple years back, I had to apologize to her as well. Because years before I met her, I always used to say, Lord, every time I went through something, it was just me and you. It was just me and you. I said, I wish I had a woman that would go through this stuff with me, because I'd met a lot of women that were like, I had one woman actually tell me, call me when you've solved all the problems in your life, so you have nothing else to do but take care of me and worry about me. She actually told me that. And
bad attitude.
But I surprised her by saying, as you wish. it may take me 10 or 20 years to get to that point. And if you're still available and I'm still interested, we can try it again. Clearly, I've never.
Taken.
Yeah.
The ring on it.
I've never heard from her again, and that ended that. But one day I was driving, back in Philadelphia. I was driving and listening to my music, wasn't even thinking about what I used to say all the time. And I heard the Lord say to me, "Why do you see me as a consolation prize?" And I'm like, driving, Lord, what are you talking about? He said, "Why do you see me as a consolation prize?" I said, "Lord, I never said that." He said, "Oh, but you did." He said, "You always want a woman to go through your trials and tribulations with you by your side, but you'll settle for your God. Like, I'm a consolation prize. So why do you see me that way?" And it was like a straight two-piece to the gut. He straight hit me hard. Okay, he hit me hard, and I was like, "Oh Lord, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way." He said, "No, but that's what you've been saying." So I said, "Father, I am so sorry. I did not mean that. I apologize, and I've never said it again." So when I met Esther, and he told me I would need her, I never thought that he would make her. He would honor what I said. "Oh, you want to see somebody go through something with you and see how she acts? Okay, well, we'll put you in that petri dish." And it was like 4 or 5 years into this.
Also, God puts you in a petri dish just like you put people in petri dishes?
All day.
Oh, so is that where you learned it from?
That's where I learned it from.
Oh, okay, learned it from that.
Okay, I mean, that's where I learned it from. So he put us in the petri dish. And he was like, "Now I'm going to show you why you're going to need her." Because a lot of people are having a problem with 2, 3, 4 weeks of being shelter-in-place warriors. She's been going strong for 7 years, and we've actually come out better for it. So when we both started seeking him, she wanted someone who would be her true covering. She told the Father that in church, New Year's Eve.
Don't show me if it ain't for me. I tried to make it rhyme. But that's really what I said.
Yeah,
don't show me if it ain't for me. And
the next day?
Yeah, less than 24 hours.
We met online.
A whole nother story, whole nother conversation. Whole nother episode. Right. Just know that we have a story, right. A testimony. I got a testimony.
But also know that everything that we're talking about, it can be unscripted because it's lived, it's history. We don't have to think about what to say. Once we decided on the topics, it was like, oh, okay, well, whatever.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
Extemporaneously.
Because we lived it. And so what I'm going to say to you is that the Lord will put you in a petri dish. Okay? Talk about your faith being tested. That's in the scripture. Use that as a petri dish. He'll put you in a culture and see how you grow.
Have you ever prayed, "Lord, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven"? Well, things look a little different in heaven than they do here on earth. And so if you want that in alignment, he's going to call you to a certain level of obedience. Or have you ever prayed like I did, break my heart with the things that break yours, make me grieve the way you grieve. Let me see with your eyes. Let me hear with your ears. Okay. And so when he takes you up on that offer, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to obey him? Are you going to follow in the path that he has set before you? Or are you going to lean onto your own understanding?
And that's where the defiant faith comes back in. You're going to defy the world to keep faith in the Father. Okay? So that's what that really means. You're not defying the Father, because that's a losing battle anyway. But you're defying the world to hold on to your faith in the Father. That's what that means.
So the next strategy is about doing things differently and being okay with it. And 2 things that we're going to bring to your attention are 2 very significant milestones that happen in our lives. And sometimes, and actually there's, I guess, another one that I'm just thinking of that can apply to is births, which I hadn't thought about, and transitions, or what we call deaths, funerals, and weddings. But then also I'm thinking about, we see these things online for proms. This year, graduating class of 2020, they're going to get a clear vision that things are happening a little bit different from them I don't think there's going to be very many proms that are happening, if any. They may, we'll see. But proms, graduations, being able to do things differently and be okay with them. And I call them the very specific milestones. I'm going to do death because we see it every day right now. We're getting reports every day. People have been dying every day since we've been alive, but the reports are in our face. And if you have any type of humanity in you, it has to touch you in a special place and cause you to grieve to some type of level. That's just called being human and caring and having compassion. If it's somebody that's close to you, that takes it to a whole nother level because it's somebody that you knew, it's someone you had a relationship with. I went from saying, I ain't seen nobody's names. All these people supposed to be dying, but we're not hearing any names. And then literally the next day, I got a notice of somebody that I had actually done a runway show with that was a model up in Michigan who had transitioned. And I mean, I didn't know her personally, but I remember her from that particular runway show. And that touched me a little differently than the numbers that were being reported, because those numbers were just numbers. But we want to take a little bit of time to talk to you about grief and doing it differently. We're not maybe being able to, while they're saying, yeah, you can go ahead and gather for a funeral or gather for a wedding, they are allowing you to do that in certain places, at your own risk, obviously. But it probably is wisdom to, if you're sheltering in place with everything else, to continue to shelter in place with the weddings, keep it small, and it's okay. And so with that, also with the funerals and the transitions, my father transitioned in May of 2015. He did have his last birthday. He wanted to make sure we had that cake. But he transitioned, and it was quick. It was kind of like the coronavirus. I mean, we knew he was sick. He had lung cancer, and he was succumbing to the treatments that were used to try and do some type of form of healing. He became to succumb to the treatments. And when I was sitting on the pew in church, Father said to me, when you go outside, look up, I have something in the sky for you. And we were leaving and going to the funeral home in order because we didn't have the body at the actual funeral, doing things different. People probably thought we were a little weird, didn't do a whole big announcement, everybody come to the funeral. I didn't want that. If you weren't there in his waking life, I didn't want you there in his transition life. It's just, this was a small, intimate thing. So we were learning to do things differently than what the world has told us to do. So I went outside and we were hustling to get over to the funeral home, and I forgot to look up. And so I said, Vince, as I was reviewing the day, I said, do you think God will give me another opportunity? He said he had something for me in the sky, and I forgot to look up. So the next day I'm going to my mom's house, and as I'm driving, I'm getting off the freeway to kind of make my way to the house. I hear Father say, Holy Spirit say to me very clearly, it's like, when you get to the house, go to the northeast corner and look up. So he was giving me a do-over, and I was really excited about that. And I knew that people saw things in clouds, and I thought they were really super weird. And the reason I thought they were weird is because I didn't see anything in the cloud. And they would take pictures and post and say, do you see this? Do you see this? And I'm like, I don't see nothing, it's just some clouds. And he said, you're going to start seeing things as others say they see. So I was like, okay. So when you think I didn't get to that house, I went and I looked up. I didn't really see anything. And so I took my little camera and I started taking pictures. I probably had about 50 pictures of the cloud activity that was going on at that time. Then I went in the house and sat down on the couch and I looked at my camera and I'm like, I see nothing. Makes me think of the song from Chorus Line. So I reached right down in the bottom of my heart to see what I had inside. Anyway, and I saw nothing. And I didn't. I saw nothing in that moment. So I closed my camera. I was frustrated. I told my mom and told my sister about it. And then I opened the camera about an hour later and boom, there was my dad. I saw him in the clouds. And Father cared so much for me to share that with me in that moment. To show me my dad in the cloud of witnesses. So when people come with all their theological standpoints or viewpoints on what happens when a person transitions, I know that I know that I know because of what Father showed me really what happens. And that was the turning point. The whole reason I shared the story with you is because that was the turning point of how I view when someone dies. And how I view it is maybe going to come off a little sterile. I think you have shared this viewpoint a little bit. He's going to share in a moment. But I view it as graduation day. Picture yourself if you had a sibling, if you not just imagine you had one. Picture you had an older sibling. You're in 9th grade and they're in 12th grade. Well, what happens next? We all gather around and we celebrate because the 12th grader graduates. Do you grieve over them graduating and going to the next level? Do you grieve over them advancing and moving on to the next season or chapter in their life? Do you do those things, or do you celebrate and get excited because of that graduation? And that is the viewpoint Father gave me. It's just that my father, while he's not here, he's graduated. He has transitioned. That's why I don't even like using the word death as much as I really like the word transition, because he's just moved. He's just moved. And he's transitioned to the next chapter, the next season, the next phase, and I celebrate that transition. And so I even have a hard time grieving, mutually grieving with people, but it's not because I'm not saddened by the fact that someone has graduated out of their life and transitioned to their next phase. It's because I am excited that they have transitioned. The big thing is, what do you do before the transition happens to ensure they'll be in the cloud?
And that's a good segue into my take on it. I agree with her. You don't lose people, they transition. I also agree is to the notion of where they graduate to. Now, I have I don't want to say procedure, but there's a thing that I do, especially if I know someone is ill. I mean, I try to do it with healthy, strong people too, because you never know. Like I said, here today, gone tomorrow.
That's more reality than it ever has
right.
been. Yeah.
That's a fact of life. But if you're blessed enough to know that someone is near the end of this life, and you're able to make sure that you witness them do the prayer of salvation and believe it and know that they know that their names are in the Lamb's Book of Life. One, it makes it a lot easier for you to deal with their transition because you're like, okay, I will miss them as I live out the rest of this life here, but I know where they are and I know I'm going there too. And once you get there with them, there will never be another separation, ever. There will never be another death because that's not for us in heaven. That is not for us. We have eternal life in heaven. Now, the thing that the world fails to realize is that you have eternal life either way. It's just where eternal life is going to be. Again, another video, another whole theme. But if you have a at-risk family member, someone that's already tested positive, make sure that you are able to pray with them and make sure that they are able to, as we used to say in the old day, they used to say back in the day, make their peace with God. Make sure that they've accepted the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christos, however you want to say, Yahushua, okay? The only begotten Son of the Father. Make sure that He is their Lord and Savior. Make sure of that. And what will happen is when the transition period happens, hold on to that because that will help you get through it. Yes, you will miss them. Yes, you would love to talk to them again. So talk to him now. You know, years before my mother passed, she used to say, give me my flowers when I can smell. She taught me that when I was a kid. So I did everything I could do while she was alive. I had no guilt. I had no regrets. I did everything I could do. When her father was near his transition, I did everything I could do. And in fact, in one of his final acts, 6 days before he passed, maybe even 5, he asked me to shave him. Now, that's interesting because I'm not his son, but that's something a son would do for a father. To me, that was my graduation of acceptance of me being his son. He asked me to shave him. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that you understand is that the cycle of life is the cycle of life. Whether it's natural causes, this pandemic, or any other cause, the cycle of life is going to be the cycle of life. But remember, after this life comes your rendezvous with the Son. And are you his or are you not his? And that's something you get to decide now. I urge each one of you to reflect on your own faith, your own position with our Savior, and make your choice now. You do have a choice. You can say yes or no. You can say, I'll find another way. Well, okay. That's your choice. The thing about choices is you can make a choice. You don't get to choose the consequence. It's chosen for you. Scripture says that. You choose the Son, you get consequence number 1. You don't, you get consequence number 2. We didn't write it. We didn't choose it. We just know that it's real and that it's going to happen.
Think of the word consequence and a synonym to it being outcome. So you're going to get an outcome. You're going to get a result. You're going to get something for something. So consequence is oftentimes seen as a negative word. It's not a negative word. It's just a descriptor. It describes what happens as a result of a choice that one makes, good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, here's a comical example. You can choose to brush your teeth or not. Okay, you have that choice. You brush your teeth, gargle, fresh breath, preserve your teeth. You choose not to. No, that's
You got yuck mouth
yeah.
because you don't brush. And that, what was that?
Yeah, that was a like Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock or something. Yeah. Something.
So I mean, that's another form of a consequence. You can follow the speed limit, get to your destination. You can exceed the speed limit, get a ticket. There you go.
There you go.
So it's just an outcome for a choice. Very good way of putting it. Make sure you make the right choice.
And with that, we're going to take one last break and we'll be right back.